So the Packers just absolutely got shredded. I know the score was 31-29, but this game really wasn't close until the Packers made it close in the fourth quarter. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about in this video, but at the end of the day, I do want to say the Minnesota Vikings are for real. Yeah, like I was just saying, there was a lot I want to talk about. I'm filming this on a Monday, the day after the game, because after the game yesterday, I was a little bit busy. I couldn't really record immediately, but a reaction video is a reaction video regardless of what day it is. Well, maybe if it's like a week later, no bueno. But again, this game was a blowout in the first half. It was 28-7 for the first half. Then the Packers scored 22 points in the second half, while the Minnesota Vikings scored 3. Let's start with the offense. So the first half was abysmal from the Packers. Jordan Love threw the ball 54 times. I think that's the most he's ever thrown in his career in a game. 32 completions, 389 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He got sacked once with a passer rating of 83. And if you watch the game, there was a lot going on in the first half. Like I said, the second half, the stats were maybe a little bit inflated because, the Packers were getting smoked. The Vikings playing prevent defense. But when it came to Jordan Love, his first interception he threw was a terrible decision. He threw it to double coverage to Christian Watson, and Christian Watson ended up being hurt on that play, and it's reported a high ankle sprain. So we don't know the severity of it yet, but it's probably going to be at least 2 to 3 weeks to be out. So that's a big blow for the Packers. But the second interception, it went through Luke Musgrave's hands, then it hit Romeo's hands, and then it was tipped from Romeo, and then another interception right there. And then the third interception, he's looking like Brett Favre because I guess he wanted to represent Brett Favre yesterday because he wore his jersey coming into the game. It was a terrible decision. I don't know what he was doing. It's late in the fourth quarter. I mean, even if we got 3 points, well, I don't even trust our freaking kicker. Our kicker's in the whole other side of the story. But anyways, Jordan Love, I know he came off an injury. He threw 389 yards and 4 touchdowns, but he definitely looked shaky, especially in that first half. He had a lot of low throws, couple of wobbly passes. He did not look comfortable out there, but I will say that the second half, he did look a lot better. Still a couple of weird decision making when it came to him throwing the ball. But you see in the first half, he was not comfortable. The Vikings were blitzing so much. Our offensive line looked shaky and all of that. Like I said, the first half of the Packers was just horrible. Josh Jacobs had 9 carries for 51 yards. Since we were down like 14-0 immediately, 21-0 immediately, we had to establish the passing game. So the running game was basically irrelevant ever since after the first quarter. So Josh Jacobs, I'm not going to give too much, hate on him because he only had 9 carries and he did good whenever he had the ball. There was no fumbles for the Packers. It was just the 3 interceptions, which the Packers only had those turnovers, of course. But man, like I said, the rushing game, I'm not going to really talk about too much because we had to go to the passing game a lot, as you see, 54 attempts. But the wide receivers is what I want to talk about. Jaden Reed was the only Packer receiver that did amazing. 7 receptions, 139 yards, and a touchdown. Dontavion Wicks had 2 touchdowns, 78 yards, and he also got targeted 13 times. I swear he had like 5 or 6 drops in this game. And the drops from the Packers, even Jaden Reed had a drop. It's just ridiculous. I knew that Tucker Kraft had a couple of drops. Romeo had a couple of drops. Jaden had 1 drop. And Dontavion Wicks, I love him a lot. I like him. I think he has a great chance to be a really good wide receiver. But yesterday was not his day. And I'm actually kind of surprised he stayed in the game, late towards the end of the game because he had so many drops. He dropped like in the first quarter. It was the one that Packers. It was the very first drive that led to the Packers missing the field goal. He dropped a first down that could have been maybe a touchdown, but it was a guaranteed first down. He was right in his hands, dropped it. And then, as I said, that's when the Packers missed the field goal. He had a couple other drops. I mean, there was just drops left and right from the wide receivers. It was really disappointing. Like I was just saying, Reed is the only one that I'm not going to give any, hate towards. He's been amazing so far this year. He already has a few touchdowns, like almost 400 receiving yards without Jordan Love in the first 2 games or, 2 games so far this season. So And an offensive line, like I was just saying, they're giving up pressures the whole entire time. Even if the Vikings are blitzing 4 men or 5 men, there Jordan Love was all over the place when it came to running. You can tell he was limping a little bit, or not wimping. He was limping. He was limping a little bit for sure. You can tell he was definitely uncomfortable. But the blitz for the Vikings was kind of irrelevant. They didn't even need to really blitz a lot because the Packers' offensive line was just struggling really bad. The PFF grades are not out, so I can't see exactly who did what when it came to pass protection, run protection, whatever. But you can just tell watching the game that the Packers' offensive line was not good. Looking at the stats for the Vikings real quick, Sam Darnold had a really good game again, 20 for 28, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, and one interception, which is Xavier McKinney interception. Sam Darnold from the first half looked amazing. The wide receivers are open 24/7. He's making really good passes. He did have one drop interception that very first drive, but then again, there's a lot of what ifs there. But the stats are the stats. He had, like I said, the one interception in the late third quarter. It was Xavier McKinney. It was definitely a 50-50 ball because he almost dropped that one. I mean, the Packers dropped so many balls on offense and defense, but Sam Darnold had a really good game. Aaron Jones had a pretty good game too, 22 carries, 93 yards, no touchdowns, which is the biggest thing I was worried about, but he had a really good first half again, but then again, like this Vikings team definitely put the foot off the gas in the second half. You could definitely tell they're playing prevent defense the whole time. Their offense started kind of stalling out, trying to do a little dink and dunks, just try to waste time, a couple of small run plays. You could tell in the second half because the first half they were just completely demolishing them. Justin Jefferson was their leading receiver with 85 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Addison had a really nice comeback game with 72 yards and a touchdown. I'm pretty sure he had a rushing touchdown too. Actually, yep, I'm looking at it back now, but Jordan Addison had a really good game, and I knew he'd be a really big factor if he was be able to come back against the Packers because he missed the last couple of games, and guess what? And it also didn't help that Jair Alexander ended up being ruled out, and Carrington Valentine. So there was 2 cornerbacks out against a top-rated offense. I knew it was going to be recipe for disaster, and I freaking called it. Yeah, like I was just saying about the turnovers, Jordan Love threw 3 interceptions, and the Vikings had 2 fumbles. Or, I'm sorry, 1 fumble and 1 interception. So the Packers lost a turnover differential. And so usually the Packers have been +7 in the run turnover differential all year. Obviously, it's only the first 3 games, but still really good at not turning over the ball and really good at turning over the ball. That's why we've been winning games. But yesterday was just no bueno. At least we forced a couple of turnovers. That's the only positive side. The run game, like I said, Aaron Jones had 93 yards, but he had a couple of big plays. But other than that, the Packers defense kind of stopped him. I'm not gonna lie. He also had like 40 yards in the receiving game, Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones overall had a pretty good game. No touchdowns, which is beautiful for the Packers fans. But he still had a nice little game. Now, talking about the Packers kicker, for the freaking second straight year, we have a kicker problem. Daniel Carlson was our kicker last year. He missed a lot of field goals. He even missed a lot of PATs. But Braden, when it comes to him just kicking a regular field goal, he missed a 36 or 37-yarder in the first quarter, like I said, the very first drive. And then he ended up missing another one in the second quarter, 0 for 2 for field goals. The only thing you can say the bright side, he's not missing extra points, which is good, I guess. But, I mean, it's better than nothing. But, yeah, I mean, that's 6 points taken off the board right there. And guess what? We lost by 2 points. So, it is what it is. I'm not going to say the kicker lost the game at all because this game was a complete blowout, even when he did miss those field goals. But it's just, we need another kicker. Braden's not the answer. I was trying to have high hopes for him coming into the season, or even the first game when he missed a 1 field goal. But, I mean, he's just been so inconsistent already. It's only week 4. I think we do need a new kicker. I'm not trying to be too mean, but stats are the stats. It is what it is. Now you got the Green Bay Packers sitting at 2-2, most likely going to be on the bottom of the division because the Bears won yesterday against the Rams, and that's who the Packers play next week is the Los Angeles Rams. They are 1-3. Like I said, the Bears just won. They won a pretty good game against the Rams. Of course, Vikings smacked the Packers, so they're 4-0. And the Lions play tonight. They are 2-1. So if the Lions lose, I'm pretty sure the Packers are still the number 4 team in the division because of all the the rankings, the division loses or losses and whatever. Now, I will say it sucks that the Packers lost 2 NFC games and we only won 2 AFC games. I mean, of course, losing division rival game is the biggest blow because you always want to win against division opponents, especially at home. So the season's not over whatsoever. I still feel really good. We got the Packers. There's a lot of penalties again, by the way. I mean, for the fourth straight game, the Packers have had over 10 penalties. I mean, it's still early in the season. Like I said, we're 2-2. You know, we're right there in the middle of the pack of the NFC, which the NFC is completely wide open still. Like I said, it's a long season. There's a lot of negatives in that game, but there's also a lot of positives in that game. I overall feel good about the season still. It's not like last year when we're 3-6, and I basically didn't even want to watch the Packers anymore. I feel a lot more confident in his team. Jordan Love, like I said, he looked really shaky in the first half. He ended up being really good in the second half, even though he had a couple of weird throws, you know, a couple of bad decisions like Brett Favre. Maybe that's who he wanted to be this game. You could tell because he wore the Brett Favre jersey coming into the game, like I was just saying earlier. But long story short, bad loss. Even though this was our worst game, by the way. Like we had a lot of turnovers, a lot of drops, a lot of penalties, and we still only lost by 2. That's a big positive sign for the Packers. If they can even clean up the penalties, I think we could have at least won this game. But you give the Vikings credit here because they came in the Lambeau Field and whooped the Packers. So that wraps up this video. If you do like it, leave the like down below. Comment down below your biggest reaction to the game. And I'm out of here. Deuces.